we were overwhelmed at the response of this Bible study. We haven't had an evening Bible study probably well before COVID, maybe 2 or 3 years before COVID. So we're so excited to be able to do this again. And we're going to do an introduction. I know some of you are already looking at your notebooks and you're freaking out about the amount of information that's in there, but don't raise your right hand. Say, I will not freak out. Okay, because it's nothing to get all bent out of shape about. We're going to go over all the information. Yes, it's a lot. We're going to drink from a fire hose. We are going to learn so much. But before we do that, I have a little icebreaker. Wait, first I'm going to have an announcement. Linda, you want to make an announcement before we get started? Okay. Hang on. Take your time. Come on.
All right. Hello, my name is Linda Creamer, and Catherine Smith and I are co-coordinators for Grace Moms, and that's one of our groups for toddlers here. I have a little guy who's going to be turning 5, so I get to be here one more year with Grace Moms. And this may not apply to you, but you may know another mom lady who's a mom of a preschooler, and this is a community. It's a group for them to be part of. So we just wanted to get the word out there, share it amongst y'all. We have large group gatherings, which is you have some breakfast, you have childcare, you have fellowship, and you hear the word of God. We have Mom's Night Out, which means that we go out and find a restaurant and we just hang out and we talk. And that's open to all moms, whether you have a preschooler or not, because we want to provide that opportunity to engage. And we have play dates, and we pick up somewhere in the community or a park or another activity. So I just wanted to share those opportunities there that we have. It's registration similar to what you did for the Bible study and everything. I'm trying to think what else. And it's not just for Grace Moms. So if you know another mom attends a different church, or maybe they're not church and they need somewhere to connect, give them our information and everything. We can find all our information on the website. So if you have any questions.
There's a card on your table?
Yes, there's a card. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Linda. Awesome. Okay, good job. Yes. So Grace Moms used to be known as M2O, and then the name was, before that it was MOPS, then M2O, and then COVID hit, and now it's called Grace Moms because we're Grace women, and we have moms that have toddlers, preschoolers. Okay, so we have a little icebreaker before we get started, and on your table you will see that little striped bag. So I want you to take the bag, dump out the pieces, it's a puzzle, and put the puzzle together. It's sort of a contest without a prize. As you're doing it, get to know the people at your table. It's 350 pieces. Did anybody get any pieces that didn't cheat? Anybody? Okay. Who had the most pieces? Who had more than 10 pieces? Yeah, put together, yes. Yes, wow. Okay, but more than 20? Okay. All right, awesome. So there's a point in this exercise, and you're going to hear about it later, but now I want you to pick those pieces up and put them back in that bag. We're going to debrief this exercise in a few minutes. So you will see that this was just not a pointless frustration that I made you do. Okay, before we get started, I got a few little announcements or cleanups or whatever. Number 1 is the coffee. I forgot that I didn't know how to make coffee here. So I made a half a gallon of decaf. It's probably terrible. Raise your hand if it's terrible. Yeah. Oh, good. It wasn't horrible? All right. So next week, would anybody drink regular coffee this time of night? 1 person. 2. Okay. I need at least 5 people. Okay. Lot. I'll make a half a gallon, and people drink decaf. Raise your hand. Anybody drink decaf? Oh, okay, a couple. And tea. People got tea. Okay, got some tea. Does anybody want to make the coffee? Okay, I didn't think so. Okay, I'll figure it out for next week. Okay, let's talk about the schedule for the Bible study. This is our nighttime study, our evening study. We have a few collisions in the schedule because Grace already had some things on some nights. So what we're going to do so we're meeting the 5th, that's today. Next week we're meeting on the 12th. And the 19th is a leadership gathering here at church where there'll be lots of people. And so we are recording it for you, and we will send you the link. So you will watch it at home. Sorry, but that's the only way we could work that out. Okay, and then on the 26th, we're meeting. And then on the 3rd, October the 3rd, we will push it back 30 minutes and meet at 7 o'clock. So we'll try to finish again at 8, but we may go a little after 8. So we're just there's a prayer time here at church. You're welcome to come. You'll hear it talked about. It'll be in all the announcements. It's a church-wide prayer night. And they meet, they don't want things to collide in the schedule. So we will, if you want to go to that, it will be from 6 to 7. And then we'll meet in here at 7 o'clock sharp. So we'll start right at 7. And then October 10th is fall break. So we are not meeting during Johnson City Schools fall break. So for the morning or the evening. And then normally on the 17th, and we'll finish up, Lord help us, we hope we do, by October the 24th. Any questions about that? Okay. All right, let me see where I am in my notes. Okay, the temperature. I froze people out in here today. People froze to death. How are y'all? You're cold. You're cold? I am like burning up. As my mother would say, I'm sweating like a sinner in church. I am, but y'all are cold. No, you're fine. Okay, all right. So if you're cold, bring a sweater because we will be about this temperature every week. Okay, if you never met me, because I've never met most of you, many of you, I kept waiting for someone to come through the door that I knew, and I was so happy when, I think it was Ellie Clay, the first person that came through that I knew. I'm so excited to see new faces. No, it was Faith. New faces. We've been having Grace Women's Studies for years, and so excited that we get to offer again an evening study. My name is Kara Shute. I had a normal name till I got married. Then I married a man whose last name's Shute. And I know, it's like, shoot. Oh, shoot. Don't use my name in vain kind of thing. Yes. So we got married, and every time I had a baby, people would say, oh, you're going to have twins. You're going to have a pair of Shutes. Yeah, I know. I heard it every time. But no, I never had twins, so I didn't have a pair of Shutes. So I have worked with Cru, Campus Crusade for Christ, ever since I graduated from college, and that has been 43 years ago. So I lived in California for 2 years, worked for this mission organization, and then I got married and moved here and have been here. We've been married for 41 years. Gone to this church ever since the day I moved to Johnson City. My husband's been here. He serves on the elder team. All our kids were raised in this church. I have 3 adult children and 8 grandchildren. So I just wanted to put those up there because I have a story to tell that it's about my husband. I just wanted you to look at him so you would know how funny this story is. So 3 of my grandchildren live here in Johnson City, and the rest live in South Carolina with their parents. Sorry, I've been talking a lot. So a few years ago, I met a friend named Robin. I had just met her. She came to this Bible study, actually, and we were talking, and it turns out she was really good friends with a really good friend of mine named Kathy. And so Robin texted Kathy and said, hey, I met your friend Kara today. And so they chatted, yada, yada, yada. And you may have heard this story, but they chatted back and forth in the text, and then Robin asked Kathy, what does Kara's husband do? And she texted back and told her he works for Cru, yada, yada, yada. And then she said, he's a Bible scholar. But it auto-corrected, he's a bobsledder. And Robin says, what, a bobsledder in East Tennessee? So now we call him the bobsledder. So, but then it gets better. So I have this group of elderly women, older than me, that are well into their 80s that I play bunco with. And they are hilarious. And some of them are a little hard of hearing. So the first time I was there, I heard this woman from Elizabethton. I'm not making fun of Elizabethton, but she had that Carter County accent. Sorry, Karen, you're from Elizabethton. But she talks like this. And I heard her say, "What does Kara's husband do?" And I heard my friend Carolyn tell him. And then Carolyn said, "And he's a jewel." And this woman said, "Well, I ain't got nothing against Jews." So he's now the Jewish bobsledder. That's what we call him. And the point of the story, it's funny, but the point of the story is the goal for this group is for all of us to become bobsledders, all of us to become Bible scholars. I know there's people in this room that already are bobsledders or Bible scholars. And there's people in this room that feel like they don't know very much at all. So, if you will give me 7 weeks, if you will promise that you'll be here every Tuesday night for 7 weeks, at the end of the 7 weeks, you will know all the major periods of the Bible, all the main people, all the main events, and you will understand the geographical movement of those periods of history. So it was sort of, so you got to be here every week. So let's talk about the puzzle for 1 minute. All right, so what do you think the point is of that little game we played? Why was that difficult to do? Karen, yes, ma'am, you're raising your hand. You didn't know what you were making, correct? And I heard Karen Edgar say, well, usually when I put a puzzle together, I have the box with the picture on it. So I have no idea what this is supposed to be. And then you started doing what? How did you begin your puzzle? The edges or the flat pieces or the border or whatever it is you want to call it. You started piecing those together to make the outside edges of the puzzle. And then you could start filling in the pieces to see what the picture looks like. And that's what we do wrong with Bible study. We start with the minute details, and we have no idea what the big picture is. What is the Bible? Well, how is it laid out? The other day, if you were at church, Patrick talked about Assyria capturing the northern kingdom. And I'm sure many people thought, I have no idea what he's talking about. Well, you're going to know that. You're going to tie things, what you learn in this study, to every Christian book you read or every sermon you hear. You're going to be able to see how the history of the Old Testament and the New Testament fit together to make one continuous book. The Bible is a book about God, the theme. He's the author. There's some human authors, but God is the author. The theme is God's redemption for mankind, us. That's the author and the theme of the entire Bible. And we're going to see how Jesus fits from Genesis to Revelation. He's the golden thread or the scarlet thread that ties the entire Bible together. Okay. I got off subject already. All right, so we're going to focus on putting some of those outside edges, the flat pieces of the Bible together. We're not going to see all the details. We're going to see the big picture, what the big picture looks like. So when you hear things about the Word of God, you will know where they fit. Okay, so I grew up in this small town in Alabama, and I became a believer at very young, very, very young. And I went to a Christian camp in Macon, Mississippi called Lake Forest Ranch. Anybody? Once somebody had actually been there, and I was so excited. So I became a Christian at an early age, and this was during the Jesus Revolution time. Any other people here that were Christians during the Jesus Revolution time, you know, the one way? Yes, the keep on trucking for Jesus. Yes, the Jesus, if you've seen the movie, I lived that life. I was only like in junior high, but that was a big part of my life. So I was a Jesus follower from the time I was a child all the way through high school because it was an emotional following. I mean, my faith was real. I believed in the gospel that Jesus died, he rose again, and that I can't know God unless I go through the blood of Jesus. I knew that. I could say that. I knew all of that. And then I went to Sunday school, I went to church, I went to training union, I was a Baptist. I went to training union, I went to ACT teams, I went to GAs, I did all of those things growing up, and they were all very instrumental in the growth of my faith. I love my church. And then I went to college, University of Alabama, Roll Tide, sorry. People hate me when I say that, but it just comes out. So I'm a big Tennessee fan, though. Okay, so I went to college. I joined a sorority, Alpha Gamma Delta. Any squirrels? No squirrels. Okay. So during my pledge year, something horrible happened. A group of my pledge sisters were in a horrible car accident, and 2 of them died. And it was a terrible time. This was in, what year was this? I don't know what year it was. So because I was known as a religious person, the people coming to me for spiritual guidance. And I was thrilled to be able to do that. Come alongside, hold their hand, cry with them, pray with them, talk about the gospel. So when we went through all of that, some of the sorority sisters said, "Why don't you have a Bible study?" I said, "Okay." And it was then it dawned on me, I knew nothing about the Bible. I had been a Christian since I was a child. Here I was in college. I knew absolutely nothing about the Bible, except some stories, Noah and the Ark, Jonah and the whale, David and Goliath, all the stories that you learn in Sunday school, if you're a Sunday school student. But I really didn't know how to teach the Bible because I didn't understand the Bible. I would read the Bible, and it made very little sense to me because I would read it, start in Genesis, and start reading through. And I wish so much that I had the opportunity to do a study like this when I was younger. And then I would have grown more in my faith. Now I'm in my 60s, and I still don't know everything I want to know about the Bible. So I want all of you to be better Bible scholars when we finish in 7 weeks. And I sort of got you here on false pretenses because I said it was a Bible study, and it is a Bible study, but it's a study about the Bible. We're not going to go deep into a lot of scriptures. We're not going to have a theme of that we're looking at, or we're not studying the book of Galatians or Ephesians and tearing that apart, which I like to do. But in this study, we're going to put the borders of the Bible together, and we're going to start putting some of those pieces in there to see what the big picture of the Bible is. We're all going to begin to be bobsledders. I want to be a bobsledder. So who is this class for? This class is for if you're a brand new believer, or you're not a believer. You don't know if you are a believer. This class is for you. This class is for you if you were raised in church like I was, and you know all the stories, all those Bible stories. You know about Moses parting the Red Sea and getting the people out of Egypt, but you're not really sure who the people he got out of Egypt were. This is for you. This class is for you if you're already a Bible ninja and you know so much about the Bible that you could teach Bible studies. You may already teach Bible studies, and that's fabulous. But this class is for you. Why? Because our goal every time we open the Word is for the Word of God to change us and to make us more like Him. So, all that to say again, here's the deal. If you are kind of like a beginner Bible study, a novice, you don't even know the Bible stories, or you do, or you've been in church your whole life, but you don't know very much, and you're thinking, man, that everybody at my table knows so much about the Bible and I don't, then there's no shame in that. There's no embarrassment. There's no shame. We're not putting any judgment on that. And on the flip side of that, if you are a Bible ninja and you've been led Bible studies, you know everything about Assyria capturing the northern kingdom and all of that, then there's no pride in that. So we have no shame, no pride. We're all on the level playing ground here to learn, to grow, to become more like Jesus, to grow in our faith. We're all seeking the same thing, to know Him, to learn about Him, and to grow. All right, so we're going to start putting the pieces of the Bible together. So I learned a lot from this morning's study. I learned I talk too fast. I learned that people can't write very fast. So we're going to I'm going to slow it down. So what I want you to do now, the first thing I want you to do, and this is hilarious, but I want you to write your name in your notebook, anywhere you want to put it. On the cover, if you want to take your name tag off and put it on there, I don't care. Just put your name on this notebook, because inevitably someone will go in that bathroom, go to the bathroom, and leave it sitting on the shelf. And I said that this morning, and sure enough, a girl left her notebook in there sitting on that shelf. But I know who it is because her name is on it. So exciting. Put your name on your notebook. All right, so now let's look at the letter at the first of the first page. You can read it all later if you so desire, but I just want to highlight a few things in this letter on the first page. Dear, welcome, sweet sisters. That's you guys. Look at the third paragraph. I need to cite some of the sources that I used in this material. This material is not original with me. I did not sit down and come up with the 12 main periods of the Bible. It's in commentaries, it's in books, but I want to show you some of the books I used. I brought them. So in April, when I was praying and trying to think, what can we do for the Bible study, I was cleaning off my bookshelf and I found this book, 30 Days to Understanding the Bible by Max Anders. I don't know where I got it. I think I probably got it at the library sale. I don't know. It'd been there forever, but I paid $6 for it because the price tag's still there. I didn't buy it new. I didn't buy it, I want to read this book. It had been sitting on my bookshelf forever. Max Anders wrote this in 21 other books, and I'm not even sure if the man is still alive, but he is my hero. I learned so much from him and used so much of his material in putting this together. He gave me maps, definitions, timelines, and so much more. And I'm really grateful for how God had gifted him. Other books I used. This is a great book. It's called Talk Through the Bible, Bruce Wilkinson. This book, if you ever heard of Walk Through the Bible, he wrote that too. But this is Talk Through the Bible. Lots of great information. If you want to find where you can see Jesus from Genesis to Revelation, you will find it in this book. And he wants back, but I'm probably going to have to buy him a new copy because I've underlined in this one. Knowing the Bible 101. This is a great book. And then after everything was written and printed, my friend in Raleigh said, oh, are you using Vaughn Roberts' book? And I go, well, no, I've never heard of Vaughn Roberts. So I ordered it, and it's called God's Big Picture, what the name of our Bible study. It's tracing the storyline of the Bible. All excellent reads, just in case some of y'all really enjoy reading and studying. Okay, so the fourth paragraph. During this study, 7 weeks, we're going to do some memorization. We're going to learn and study through the 12 main periods of the Bible. And it's going to be fun. It's not going to be boring. It's going to be, I found out this morning that someone said, hey, this is like drinking from a fire hose. So we're going to turn back the pressure of that a little bit tonight. We're going to repeat a lot of stuff. We're going to learn the period, the person, the place, and the portrait of all 12 periods in the Bible. And then the next paragraph says, good news, there's no homework. That's a little bit of a fib, too. I just sort of changed it. You have some things you can do at home, but it's going to take you a minute. You don't have to do things every week. You don't have to go home and do a lot of study. I want you to come back next week. I want you to come back every week so you can build knowledge upon knowledge. But then if there's something that's said that you think, oh, I want to know more about that, then that's your homework. You can dig into that yourself because you will have the scripture where to dig it in this book. All right, let's see what else we got. Oh, questions. So if you have a question, then I would appreciate if you would just write it on a 3x5 card. There's some on your table, and put it in that basket back there. And then I will do my best to answer that. The reason for that is if you raise your hand and ask me a question, then I will lose train of thought. I'm old. I will lose where I'm going, and I will get discombobulated, and I won't know what I'm talking about, and I may give you a wrong answer. So if you'll write your question down, if it's a question that you want to be answered privately, then write that on your card. Like, where did God come from? Don't tell people, but I want to know where God came from. And so then I will answer you privately. And the reason is because I want to do some research and study. I want to know exactly what I'm telling you is the right thing. I just don't want to shoot from the hip. And then the last thing, it says this notebook is intended to be used in this Bible study only. don't copy it, distribute it, share it. And it's not because I don't want my stuff out there. It's because I don't have everything cited. I don't have that this is a Max Anders quote or this came from this book. I don't want this not published. It's okay to use their material and read their material and collate it together and come up with this material, but don't give it away or teach it or whatever. If you don't want it in a couple years, just throw it in the trash. Don't give it to the Goodwill. So, okay. Anyway, but that's not because I want my material protected. I don't, but I want their material protected. All right, turn the page. Okay, so I do this in every single Bible study I teach. You're going to have to get a pen, and I'm going to fill in the blanks for you. If I go too fast, then yell at me, and I will slow down. So this is just the structure of the Bible. We're putting the borders of that puzzle together by this material. Does everyone have a notebook? Okay, and a pen? These are Grace Women pens. If you'll look, it says Grace Women. These are very nice pens. I like. That's a gift to you from the church. Okay, so the Bible structure, there are two major divisions in the Bible, the Old Testament and the New Testament. There's 39 books in the Old Testament. There's 27 books in the New Testament. So if you add those together, there's 66 books in the whole Bible. Do you want a notebook? You do? Oh. No, there's some, there's one right here. Come, you run that back too, or I think she wants to sit back there. Thank you. No, you're fine. You're welcome. Here, take this pen too. Do you have a pen? Thank you so much. Okay. So the Old Testament, the New Testament, 39 old, 27 new, 66 total. Okay, there's three kinds of books in the Old Testament. Historical. We have history books. There are poetical books. There are poetry in the Bible. And then there's prophetical books in the Bible. In the Old Testament, sorry. Okay, the first 17 books are historical. If you want to read the history of the Hebrew nation, read the first 17 books in the Bible. The next five are poetical, and the next 17 are prophetical. Okay, this next point, some people don't know, and I think this is great. There are 11 primary historical books. Of those 17 books, 11 of them are primary. And I'm going to tell you what that means in a minute. And there's 6 secondary historical books. And I'm going to show you a graph in just a minute. All right, everybody got it? I went too fast this morning, but I'm slowing down now. Okay, so on page 3, there are 27 books in the New Testament. 27. And there are 3 types. Historical. We have history in the New Testament. That would be the Gospels and Acts. There are 13 Pauline epistles. Pauline like Paul. Pauline epistles. Epistle is like a letter. E-P-I-S-T-L-E. Epistle. And then the next 9 are general epistles. General letters written by various and sundry authors. Okay. Everybody got it? No? Where are we? The first 5 books are historical. The next 13 are Pauline epistles. and then the next 9 are general epistles. Everybody good? Everybody caught up? This is like going back to school. All right, so the Bible was written in 3 languages. If you want to know what those are, the Old Testament was written in Hebrew. And the New Testament was written in Greek and Aramaic. A-R-A-M-A-I-C, Aramaic. So 3 languages, Hebrew, Greek, and a little Aramaic. Okay, everybody caught up? All right, there are approximately 40 authors, and human authors. There are approximately 40 human authors of the New Testament. 40 different authors. All Scripture is God-breathed, so God is the ultimate author of Scripture. The Bible was written over a period of 1,600 years. From Moses, if you want to write this, you can, from Moses in 1500 BC to Revelation in 100 AD. Okay, so even though the Bible is all these things and written by all these authors over a period of time, it is still one unified book written by one author, and that's God. 2 Timothy 3:16, all Scripture is God-breathed, and it has one subject, and that's God's redemptive plan through his Son, Jesus. Okay. So the whole Bible points to Jesus from Genesis to Revelation. Okay, everybody caught up? All right, turn to page 4, and you will see the 3 kinds of books in the Old Testament. This is just a reference for you. You'll see the historical books, the poetical books, and the prophetical books. Okay? That's there as a reference for you. Now turn to page 5, and I got this chart from Max Anders' book, The 30 Days to Understanding the Bible. It's the best chart I could find that explained this. It's a timeline. I know sometimes you look at these things and you go, I don't care. But this is important. If you'll look in the center where it says historical books, you will see that Genesis, Exodus, Numbers, Joshua, Judges, 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel, 1 Kings, 2 Kings, Ezra, and Nehemiah. Those are the primary historical books. Those are the primary books. Remember back where what page was it on? Where on page 2, there are 11 primary historical books and 6 secondary. So the secondary books are the ones above that: Leviticus, Deuteronomy, Ruth, 1 Chronicles, 2 Chronicles, and Esther. Don't expect you to know all that. I don't know all that. I have to think about it or look it up. But what those books do, you can write this down, they repeat or amplify what is written in those 11 historical books. They repeat or amplify those 11 historical books. So the way this chart works, if you were to read that wonderful book of Leviticus, it amplifies or repeats what was said in Exodus and Numbers. And if you are reading that such exciting book of Deuteronomy, then it repeats or amplifies what's going on in Numbers and Joshua. In 1 Chronicles, repeats or amplifies 2 Samuel. In 2 Chronicles, repeats or amplifies 1 Kings. And then Ezra doesn't repeat, but it amplifies, Esther amplifies what happened in the book of Ezra. So does that make sense? Nod your head, yes or no. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Anybody didn't get that? Okay, awesome. So if you want to read the history of the Hebrew people, then you read those 11 books. If you want a little bit more, then you read those 6 books above it, the secondary historical books. Okay, we're going to look at this chart again later, but if you'll see the poetical books, if you're seeing where they are, Job was written during the time of Genesis. It's possibly the first book ever written, Job. And then Psalms was written during 1 Chronicles and 2 Samuel. And then Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Song of Solomon was written during the time period of 2 Chronicles and 1 Kings. And then something that I think is so fun to know is the prophetical books. So if Matt is teaching in Isaiah, then you can know from this chart, oh, Isaiah was prophesying to Judah. And we're going to find out who Judah was later. Or if you read you're reading Micah, then you know that that's about Judah, which we will find out later. In Assyria, which Patrick or Matt mentioned just a few weeks ago, Jonah in Nahum was written prophesying to Assyria, and so on and so on. And you can see where Ezekiel and Daniel, Haggai, Zechariah, all those, you can see where they fit on the timeline. Does that make sense? You don't have to know that. This is like helping put some pieces together that when you hear things, you will know where it is in history in the Old Testament. Because if you don't know the history of the Bible's history. The Bible is history. It's true history. It happened. And it's not like a bunch of pretty verses you just pull out and put on an Instagram post. You know, I could do all things through Christ who strengthens me. The beautiful verse. But who is that verse about? You know, is it about the athlete who wants to shoot the basketball goal and make a goal or, you know, get a hole in one? I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. No, it was written by someone who was in prison, who was probably going to be killed. And he's saying, I can survive this because Christ gives me strength. So the Bible, you look at the Bible, you can't pick and choose from it, but you have to look at the whole picture and what it says. And that just gives you a good Old Testament. A lot of people don't like the Old Testament because it's gory and it's weird. It's got some crazy things in there. But when you look at it through the chronological history, if you look at it and you find God in that, you're not seeing what humans did. You're seeing what God did. All right, go to page 6. These are the 3 kinds of books in the New Testament. It's just a little chart for you. You got your historical. You got your Pauline epistles, meaning they're written by Paul, our friend Paul. He wrote a lot of great stuff. And the first ones are to churches, and then he wrote to some to individuals. The book of 1 Timothy was to 1 Timothy. The book of Titus was to Titus. The book of Galatians was to the church in Galatia. So this is just a chart. You don't have to know it. And then the general epistles over there that were mostly written by the name of the book. James, 1 Peter, they were written by those people, probably. Or in Hebrews and Revelation, you can look that up. Okay, so now let's get some fun stuff. Let's talk about geography. Y'all, I hated history in high school. Any history majors? No. Okay, my history teacher, I got a terrible high school education. I don't know why. My history teacher was the football coach. So, yes, they always did that. Yes. So, and I'm not saying all football coaches are bad teachers. I'm not making that blank statement, but mine was terrible. So he would say, turn to page 10, read the chapter, answer the questions in the back of the book, at the back of the chapter. And while you're doing that, we're going to watch football film to see why Tuscaloosa beat us this weekend. Yes. And so I was more interested in football than I was in history. So geography, you put a geography map, and I'm like, I don't care. If a pastor teaching and he puts a map up there, I'm usually like, please, it's just too much. I don't know any of this geography, but we're going to learn it. Okay, so, and you're going to have fun learning it, or at least I hope you do. Okay, so go to page 7 and pop it out of your notebook. And then turn your notebook this way so you can look at this lovely map. Okay, so this morning, the printing, we had these printed. The water is supposed to be like a little grayed out, so I put some highlighters on your table if you want to color your water in. There's like 3 or 4 highlighters if you want to do that. They're not all blue, but what we're going to do is, here's the geography of the Old Testament, the bodies of water. And they're numbered 1 through 8, and this map is numbered 1 through 8. So we are going to label these bodies of water on our map. This is the entire area that the Old Testament was in. In the next 5 minutes, you're going to learn all the bodies of water in the Old Testament that were important to history. So number 1, on the number 1 on your map, write the Mediterranean Sea, or you can just write Mediterranean. So that's body of water. So it's supposed to be like shaded gray, but the printing didn't really come out that gray. So when you get home, if you want some colored pencils and you want to color it, whatever, you can do that. And the land of the Old Testament lies east of the Mediterranean. You've got your definitions right here. And I don't want to go too fast, so let me know if I do. So Mediterranean Sea is number 1. The second thing on our map is the Sea of Galilee. We hear about the Sea of Galilee all the time. Now you know where it is. Okay, you see this like corn dog on a stick that somebody took a bite out at the bottom? The top of it, that 2, that's the Sea of Galilee. Right, Sea of Galilee there. That's a freshwater lake that's 7 miles wide and 14 miles long, and it's 36 miles inland from the Mediterranean. So you got your Mediterranean, now you got your Sea of Galilee. Well, the Sea of Galilee flows into number 3, and that's the Jordan River. We hear about the River Jordan all the time. You may have even visited the Holy Lands and seen this. The Jordan River flows south out of the Sea of Galilee for 65 miles, and then it empties into number 4, the Dead Sea. That's the corn dog with the bite out of it down there. It's the lowest point. It's 3,000 feet below sea level at its lowest point. So water flows in it, but no water flows out of it. So it has a lot of mineral deposits and nothing can live there. No plants, no animals, nothing can live in the Dead Sea. It doesn't support normal plant or animal life. And you think about it being 3,000 feet below sea level. I think Sam's Gap, if you drive to Asheville, that's about 3,000 feet above sea level. I think. I sort of made that up. I think it is. But it's that low below sea level, the Dead Sea. All right, we're cooking now. All right, the Nile. All right, here's one mistake in my notebook. Number 5, that's not the Nile. The Nile is to the left of that little thing that has the 3 tributaries. That is the Nile River. I mislabeled. I put the 5 in the wrong spot. It's perhaps, everybody got that? It's to the left of that. It's perhaps the most famous river in the world. It flows through the heart of Egypt and spreads out like many fingers, and it empties into the Mediterranean. So you can color your rivers and your Mediterranean Sea if you'd like. Everybody got the Nile? Okay, let's go up to 6 and 7. That's the Tigris. That's number 6, that body of water right there, that river. That's the Tigris River. And number 7 is the Euphrates River. Twin rivers flow 1,000 miles before they empty into the Persian Gulf, which is number 8, the Persian Gulf. Everybody got that? Awesome. Okay, put that back in your notebook. Okay, now let's look at page 9, and let's pop page 9 out. Okay. These are the locations. We looked at 8 bodies of water. Now we're going to look at 7 locations. And when you know these locations and these bodies of water, you know the entire geography of the Old Testament, which is pretty cool. So A, it should say Eden. A is Eden. You'll find that down right between at the base of the Tigris and the Euphrates. I had a little black dot there, but it sort of somehow disappeared in the printing. So that is the possible location of the Garden of Eden. We don't really know. It's impossible to pinpoint, but people that know things like this say that it was near the convergence of the Tigris and the Euphrates. So for this purpose, we're saying that Eden is right there. Letter A. So the bodies of waters are numbers, and the locations are letters. Okay, so B is Canaan or Israel. And I drew a little drop down, and where the little black dot is, that's where it is. But you can write it on the line, Canaan/Israel, the same place, called different things. They change the names in the Bible a lot. And like somebody said this morning, Tri-Cities is now what? Highlands, what is it? Appalachian Highlands. But we're still the same place. We're now the Appalachian Highlands. Yeah, news to me. I didn't know that. So Canaan and Israel, the same place. The name changes in the Old Testament. In Genesis, it's Canaan. It stays Canaan until Joshua pursues and gets into the Promised Land, and it's changed to Israel. And then in the New Testament, it's called Judea, Samaria, and Galilee, but you don't need to know that. Okay, so C is Jerusalem. Again, I drew a line up with a dot. It's sitting right there off the northwestern shoulder of the Dead Sea. It's central to the story in the Old Testament and the New Testament, and it's also the capital of the nation of Israel. Okay, everybody got it? Just a few more. And then D is Egypt. Egypt, central part of the Old Testament. That whole land area over there is Egypt. And then go all the way across to Assyria, which is the top center. Assyria is between the Tigris and Euphrates in the top. That's Assyria. And we're going to learn how they captured the northern kingdom later on. And then F is Babylonia, which is down near Eden. And on this paper, it tells you that they conquered the southern kingdom. And we're going to learn about that. And then the last one is G. The G is Persia, right there next to the Persian Gulf. Okay, so you fill that out. Now go back on this page and put the bodies of water in there. You can go back and look at the paper. Number 1 is the Mediterranean. You can just label those at your table. I'll give you a few minutes. If you have any questions, you can ask somebody at your table, or you can raise your hand. So just fill in those 1 through 8, the bodies of water, and then you'll have the entire map of the Old Testament. And y'all are on your way to be bobsledders. Okay, if you didn't finish it, you can work on that at home. Everything you need to know is in the pages in front of that. Okay, turn to page 11. This is just a little interesting map that was thrown in here. This just shows you contemporary, where things are now in modern day, where Iran and Iraq, Syria, Jordan, Israel's in the same place, Lebanon, Turkey, and then Egypt. Egypt has not moved. Okay. Then the next page, on page 12, fascinating this, that everything that happened in the Old Testament can be fit in a smaller than Texas. So when you read all of these Old Testament stories and history, it all fits in, the geography all fits into an area that's about the size of Texas, actually smaller. You know, from Houston, which would be Persia, over to Odessa, which would be near Odessa, Texas, near Israel. So that's gives you a scale of thinking about the size of the geography. Okay, page 13. When you get home tonight, fill this in. It's a blank map. You got your numbers, you got your letters. And when you fill that in, you will know the entire geography of the Old Testament. You don't have to memorize it. It'll come to you, as we study and all that. But you'll have a general idea where everything is. You know that the Sea of Galilee, the Jordan River, and the Dead Sea are all like connected to one another. You may have already known that. Awesome. Okay. Turn the page. Okay. So we're going to talk about the historical books, and let's just read this together. This has a lot of words on it, but it's an easy thing that we're going to learn. The Bible, again, is divided into 12 periods. I didn't come up with these. These are not original with me. These are in any Bible book you read, commentary. There's 12 periods, and 9 of them are in the Old Testament. Okay, so we're going to call those periods, and then we're going to put a person, the main person, and then we're going to put a place, and then we're going to have a little description after it. So look at the left column. That's all you really need to look at right now. Those are the 9 main periods of the Old Testament. Creation. That's when God created the world and man and early events. The patriarch period, that's the birth of the Hebrew people through Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph. The Exodus period, that's when the Hebrew people were delivered out of slavery. The conquest period, that's when the Hebrew people conquest the land and come out of Egypt. The Judges period, just a few months ago, Matt was talking about the judges that ruled. I mean, now you may have already known this, but now you have an idea that the judges ruled for 400 years. And they were just rulers. They weren't like judges with a gavel. They ruled they were the rulers of the land. And then the people wanted kings, so then we had the kingdom period. And then we had the exile period where they got kicked out. And then they got to come back, and that's the return. And then the silence period. Between the Old and New Testament, there are 400 years that nothing is written down in the Bible about. But God was still working. So that's called the silent period. And then the New Testament opens after that 400 years. So right there you've got the 9 periods of the Old Testament. Okay, so the reason for the history, the periods, it's just like the U.S. history. How old are we? 200-something years old. You had the colonial period. And the main person during that was Ben Franklin, and that happened in Boston. And then in the Revolutionary War, you had Thomas Jefferson, and that took place in Philadelphia. And the Federal period, Andrew Jackson in D.C., and then the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln in Gettysburg. So history is broken up like this, a main period, a main person, and a main place, and biblical history is laid out the same way. Okay. Let me say this before we move forward. You hear the words Hebrew, Jews, Israelites. It's so confusing. Who are these people and why do they need so many names? So write this down. All of these people are the same people group. Ready? They're all descendants of Abraham. They're the Jews. The Jews. They're called the Hebrews. Same people. The Jews and the Hebrews, same people. You can just write it on this piece of white paper right here. Israel, same group of people. The children of Israel, they're also the Jews, the Hebrews. The nation of Israel, it's the same people. And the Israelites. All of those words refer to the same group of people. So if I say Hebrew, if I say Israelites, if I say Jews, it's all the same people. Okay, so that was just a little sidebar. All right, so turn to page 15. We're going to look at the central person of all those periods that we just talked about. So we had the first history in the timeline of history is the creation, and the main person was Adam. Okay, he's the first man. And then during the patriarch period, the main person was Abraham. He's the first patriarch. And then during the Exodus period, the main person was Moses. He's the leader of the Exodus. The conquest, the main person was Joshua. He led the Israel's army. During the Judges period, the most famous judge was Samson. During the kingdom period, the main person was David. He's the most well-known Israelite king. The exile period, it was Daniel. He was the prophet during that time. The return period, it was Ezra. He led the return. And then the silent period, when God was silent, that the main people there were the Pharisees, and they were the religious leaders of the Jews. So a lot of information. You do not have to know this. You're going to know it by the end of our 7 weeks. This is just casting vision. I'm just casting vision for what you're going to know when we're done, and just getting a general overall idea of what you're going to know. Now let's add that place. And you're going to know these places because you just wrote them on your map. The creation period, it was Adam, and the place was Eden. We wrote it on the map. That's where God created Adam and Eve in paradise. The patriarch period, we already said it was Abraham. That took place in Canaan. You already labeled that on your map. The Exodus period was Moses, and that happened in Egypt. It's on your map. Conquest, Joshua, back to Canaan. The Judges period, Samson, that happened in Canaan. The kingdom period, David, now it's called Israel. It's the same place, but now it's called Israel. The kingdom period, we did that. The exile period, Daniel in Babylonia. When they returned from exile, they were led by Ezra, and they went to Jerusalem. Then the silent period, the Pharisees, and they all lived in Jerusalem at the time. Okay, is everyone tracking? A lot of information. Now you know the period, or you've read the period, the person, and the place. Okay, now see if you can fill in the blanks with the person. It's fine to flip back and look. It's fine to talk about it at your table. This is just repetition is the key to mental ownership. The more you repeat it, the more you know it. So just fill in those blanks. I didn't mean to leave my family up there the whole time. Oh, sorry. Went too far. Okay. Everybody got that? All right, now turn the page. If you're not finished, you can keep working and turn the page and now fill in the place, which was on the page in front of you if you just want to flip back. But just try to do it. If you can't figure it out, then flip back and see. Everybody got that? Okay, now flip the page, turn your page up like this. We're going to label this map with everything that we just learned. So, what we're going to do is draw arrows to show the movement of all of those periods, and we're going to start in Eden. Find Eden over there. And remember in the progression of the places, if you look at the places, we went from Eden to Canaan. So draw an arrow from Eden to Canaan. And then they went to Egypt. Draw an arrow from Canaan to Egypt. And then they left Egypt with Moses as their leader, and they went back to Canaan. And they stayed there, and it became Israel, but they were still there. And then they went into exile to Babylonia, all the way across the map, the state of Texas, over there to Babylonia. And then they got to return with Ezra back to Jerusalem. So draw an arrow from there to there. And that is an entire geographical movement of every historical book in the Old Testament. And you've already conquered it, and I think that's awesome. Any questions about the map or what we talked about? Okay, y'all are very quiet. The group this morning was screaming at me. Slow down, I don't get it. Anyway, so maybe y'all are just smarter than them. I don't know. Okay, so you what? Am I going too fast? A little bit. Okay. No. Okay. Well, if you get behind, then you can check with people at your table, and I'm going to give you that opportunity right now. Well, I really want to finish one more section, but I think I'll stop here. And this is your table time. We're going to do this every week. We're not going to have a lot of discussion questions. What you're going to do at your table tonight is catch up, get to know each other a little bit, talk about what maybe you learned or you didn't know, or maybe you knew it all, and then fill in some blanks that you missed. If someone's at your table that can help other people that are sitting around them that didn't quite get all the information. Information is all in your book. This is like a seminary class that's not hard, but you don't have tests and you don't have papers and you don't get a grade. But at the end of it, you will know a lot of things that will help you, not just for knowledge. We could read a novel and study that if we wanted just knowledge. It's so we can, when we read our Bible, when we read through the Old Testament, we will have the knowledge to know, oh, that's what they're talking about. And when we hear any sermon or podcast, and he's talking about David, and you go, oh, yeah, he's the most famous Israelite king. Or a sermon on Samson, oh, yeah, he's the guy with the long hair that was a judge in the Judges period. So you're going to be able to put all the pieces of the puzzle together, put the border of the puzzle together so you can get the outline, and that's what we did today. We just put the border together. So we've only got anybody kids in chalk here need to go right at 8, but you can take the next 12 minutes at your table, discuss, get to know each other, talk, whatever it is you want to do. Okay, but I have one more. Oh, we already did this. We already did this announcement about Grace Moms. But if you're not on the Grace Women email list, not the email list for this Bible study, if you don't get an email from the church once a month about Grace Women, you can sign up. You can scan that QR code, and it takes you right to the sign up. And then you'll find out everything that we're doing, because we do a lot of fun things in Grace Women. You can find out about the exercise classes that we have and the fun events that we do, and it'll all be in that email. So, yes. Does it work from back there, scanning the code? So, and if there's anyone that's not on the email list for this Bible study, then you need to tell me and write your name back there so I can get you on the email list to keep you up to date, for things that are going on. I promise I won't send lots of emails. All right. Take the next 10 minutes or so and have a little table talk.